Okay, so we've got our hands fresh from the saw. So these are the pieces that we're going to be used to brace our fingers at the back. And you can take away this top piece here. We might leave that on to start with, just give us something to hold on to. It's also quite useful, these bits allow us a sort of handhold. So I suppose we dive straight in. Perhaps we'll show you this hand first, as it's the straighter one. That way, if you want to do two straight ones, you can. Now, looking at this, it's fairly obvious what we need to get rid of first are these pieces here and this section here. At least all of this, because this is part of the thumb, extra part of the thumb. So hopefully, this being a different piece of wood from the head, that we can just dig in there straight away. And start getting rid of this material. Now, you can see immediately that that's carved so much better than that last piece. We can also take away this here. This is starting to become what would be the palm of the hand, but it's obviously slightly thicker than the fingers, so this can come around like this. So we can take most of that away and most of this top section away. You can also round over these fingers slightly and taper this section round over this section here. Start to blend that back in. And same with this bottom section here. Just get rid of that. I'm just slicing across the grain there. You say you want to have the grain of your fingers, grain of the wood running that way in regards to the fingers, because it will keep them stronger. And so you'll be carving then this way. But you can also, on a nice piece of wood, carve across the grain like so, and still get a decent finish. There we go, starting to look a bit like a hand already. Got quite long, slender, spiny fingers. We'll just sort these bits out at the top here. The pointy fingernails. So it does get a bit dangerous. Okay, so then you want to round over slightly. At the moment this is all the same thickness, so if you imagine thicker here, or certainly the middle finger thicker, then tapering out slightly and then tapering back along this way. If you imagine your hand, you don't often have your hand dead flat, it will be curved, so it will curve round that way. So we could remove some more of this, start to make it a little bit curved. You know, it's not essential, but it just adds a little bit more realism. You know, a flat hand would be perfectly okay if this is your first puppet. But it's just little details like this just make it look a little bit more professional and thought through. And of course you need to round over the back of the palm as well, the back of the hand, back side to the palm. You can leave it like that for the moment if you want to put the marks for the fingers, the separating marks for the fingers, and then you can taper those back in a little bit more for even more detail, so you can get those slots in and then you can sort of round in slightly where the fingers are. We've got to just blend this area into the thumb as well, so you get a more of a smoother transition over here from where the thumb is to the fingers. And just sort of blend that flow in, and again to the top of the hand, rounding over. And of course just take the edges off the thumb. You want to be careful here because you've not got much wood to play around with. You just want to take the corners off, rounding over, leave the little knuckle there if you can. Just be quite delicate with your cuts. Get in there, round off that side as well. Again, just rounding over the corner of the base of the palm. And making that slight definition in the middle. There you can see, I mean, it's starting to get towards a basic hand, quite a basic hand there, but it's you know, perfectly recognisable as a hand. Long fingers though, but then she's a witch. So we'll just put in these dividing lines for the fingers. So I'll just mark these straight. If you want to sort of make them a bit bulgy around the knuckles, you can, but I'll just mark these in straight for the time being. And then again, if you've got a V tool or something similar, you can use that now to put those lines in. If you haven't got a V tool, you're going to have to do it the way that we do some of the other cuts. So with a V tool you can go sort of straight in and put that line in. If you haven't got that, we're going to have to do it as we did before. Stab cuts in here. Don't push in too hard, you know, delicate fingers here, and you want a straightish chisel. It doesn't have to be dead straight. You have a little bit of variation on the curve of the fingers. So stabbing in and then cutting back towards that cut at an angle, like so, and then from the other finger as well, the other side, so you come it from this angle first, and from your other side, and it basically does the same, effectively you get the same thing. So again, do that with your little finger. Then you can start, if you really want to be more detailed, then you can start, as you can see, sort of rounding the fingers over towards the next finger, so it's not, so they're no longer sort of straight lumps, they've got a bit of roundness to them, curve to them. Okay. You don't have to go too deep really. If you pick it out with the paint, you only need a sort of a slight line really to get some darker coloured paint in there, and you can really make that line stand out more if you don't want to go in too deep. Obviously repeat that on the other side of the hands, and then you can taper your fingers more. You can work more then on the taper of the fingers. So that you can get the sort of thickness that you want from the fingers. And you can put in a little bit more shape to them as well if you want. Let's just do the little finger. Okay, so really starting to get there. With your other hand, obviously you're going to have to do the same procedures. Getting rid of this excess piece. You've also got this excess finger here, part of the finger, which will be having one pointing and these others folded back, as you can see, folded round. I've got to try and get this piece out as well. That'll come out once this is taken off. Got to be a little bit more careful now working with this one, because you've only got one finger to brace it on, so you don't want to be pushing too hard. So I'll probably work again work in from the side here. Get rid of some quite big chunks. See if we can free that piece up. There we go. So you're going to do that the same way, that rounding over all these, getting rid of these top sections. Blending back from the thumb. Now remove this extra finger. If you haven't managed to cut in with your scroll saw, which I did there, just to free that up, and you can get a little hand fret saw in there. Might be useful to get that piece in. So you've got to be careful here to work your way in. Again, we could do this with a fret saw. There's not much room to get the blade in though, so what I'm going to do is just carefully work my way in the contour of the finger. I'm not going to try and take it off all in one go, because I might, you might cause yourself some problems there, snap something off. So sort of stab in a little bit, then come back, take those bits away, takes the stress off it, and then there it goes, and it's gone. So we've got our pointy fingers. Now all we need to do, we've started to get this separation already for this finger. Is basically to mark these up and do the same thing. We need to cut back here. Obviously the little finger is smaller. So where's my pen gone? Grab another pencil. So this finger, it's the longest one, so that'll be there. We'll need to chop back here, sort of somewhere around there for that finger, and then somewhere probably about here for the little finger. So this has got to come away, and you will have to do this carefully. Now you could do this with a hand fret saw like this, handheld fret saw, scroll saw, if you want to, or you can go in with your chisels in there and get in there. So then once you've done that, you can just then taper. I want to put a little bit more of a taper back along here, as much as you can. We haven't got much with the little finger there, so we can come to there, so that can sort of taper like that as well. Just give ourselves a little bit more definition. We'll add a little bit of length to this little finger as well. So into there, into there, and there. Using the same procedure as we've done before. And then you'll have a couple of nice hands, one with a nice pointy finger. As you can see, I've done a bit more tidying up on the hands, and before I finish them off entirely, I'll show you what we need to do with these sections on the back here. Now, as I mentioned before, these are for your fingers and thumb to operate, to give you something to brace against. So we need to remove the rest of this material here. Get rid of most of that, and get rid of most of this. Now, you could cut this off, really, it'd be quicker if you've got the saw, just to whip it off with the saw, but it's probably not much slower to do it like this. Get rid of all that. So we also want to round off at the front here a little bit, give some shape to the arm where the material attaches. Just get rid of this. All that. Okay, so we've got this now with a section here for my finger. I might pare this out even a little bit more here, get a bit more of a curve in there. This one, which has got a nice rounded shape to it. Let's get this one in and get a Okay, so there we go. You can see now this curve shape in here, and it'll be nicely braced for my finger, so we can attach some cord or leather around there to create a section for your finger to slide into, so you've got a grip on both sides. So that's nearly it there. Really what I need to do now is just a little bit more tidying up, a little bit more sanding on here, and just make everything nice and clean. We can put some fingernails in as well. So once you've sanded, if you're going for a sanded finish of course, it's nice just to have a bit of fingernail detail in. Now we can just paint those on, or we can just take a slither off the end and just give the impression of a fingernail. So I don't know whether you can quite see that on the camera. I'll zoom in. You can just see that fingernail on there. More pronounced when this is smooth, and then you get a nice shiny cut on there for the nail. And then of course you can pick it out with paint as well. It'll really stand out then. So that's it, almost it for our hands. Just ready for painting, a little bit more sanding and then get some paint on there.